We're now going to talk about a very important subject when it comes to dogs, and it's a subject that's very much overlooked. So it is what we call enrichment. Most people have never heard of enrichment. It is something that they use in zoos, for example, and we can also use it at home because while our dogs are domestic animals and not wild animals, they are still animals and therefore have requirements and needs that need to be fulfilled through enrichment, and that's what it's for. So puppies, for example, they need a lot of entertainment while they're awake, especially because they can become quite destructive. Now they're supposed to sleep around 18 to 20 hours a day, so that's a lot of sleeping. So you can imagine those 4 to 6 hours are a lot of energy that needs to be got rid of. So they can become destructive at that period of time. Other times when dogs are older, for example, they'll become more destructive because they're bored, so they have nothing else to do, and they're not being mentally stimulated. So it's not enough just to take a dog for a walk as a way to enrich them. They also have to be mentally stimulated as well as physically stimulated. We have to meet that requirement for them, and it's probably the one requirement that I've noticed as a dog trainer and going to many people's houses that they lapse on. You sort of get in a pattern and in a rut. They'll play with their dog, but they won't give their dog opportunities to become enriched in other ways. A lot of dogs have never had the opportunity to think. So when you start the process of going down the path of enrichment and making them think, that's a very interesting procedure to watch. So we talk about destructiveness for example. First and foremost, we have to remember that dogs have different rules to us. Probably the most important rule to recognise when it comes to destructive behaviour is in the dog world, once your item in question is out of your personal zone, then it's up for grabs. So, for example, if I was to come into my lounge room, I took my shoes off, I left my shoes on the floor, I walked into my bedroom, and I came back out, my dogs are eating my shoes. That is perfectly understandable when we look at the dog rule. Okay, so the shoe is no longer in my personal space, and therefore it's up for grabs. So we have to bear that in mind when we're dealing with dogs. We will always teach them to leave it and that certain things aren't appropriate to play with. But at first, we have to always bear in mind that rule. So that's a management issue. I should put my shoes away. I shouldn't leave them in the lounge room. I should put anything I value away, that I have an emotional attachment to away, so my dog doesn't have the opportunity to destroy it. So we can't just take away things that a dog wants to destroy. We also have to give them things that it's appropriate for them to destroy. So this is a part of enrichment. It's our job to add enrichment to the dog's life. The definition of enrichment is an act of making life fuller or more meaningful or rewarding. So if we focus a little bit of time and effort on enrichment, then we have a more fulfilled dog. If we don't focus some time and effort into enrichment, then the dog will just do it itself. And you're probably not going to like how he does it. Okay, you're probably not going to like that he's going to dig up your flower bed. You're not going to like that he eats your shoes. So let's focus our dog's effort on things that he can destroy as opposed to worrying about things that he can't. Some ideas for enrichment. What is it? Enrichment is basically having your dog think in context of what his natural ability would be. So dogs, for example, are natural born scavengers. They're not so much hunters, they will hunt, but scavenging is probably how most dogs in the wild would pick up their food. So we can utilise that scavenging nature to give them something entertaining to do. Okay, we have movies and Xboxes and books and music. Your dog needs some stuff as well. So ideas for enrichment could include things like training. Obviously, the style of training that we do is designed to create a dog that thinks, because he's always got to think, how did I just get what I wanted? How can I do that again? And because of the type of training that we're using, we will change the parameters on them. That is creating thinking. It's a hard exercise to do. And if you think about it, if you work in an office job, for example, you can be just as exhausted coming home after a day using your brain as you would if you were on the weekend and you were fixing your garden. It's your brain takes up a lot of energy, and so does your dog's brain. So let's utilize that as a way to wear them out. A dog that goes for just a walk as an attempt to wear it out will become fitter and healthier and stronger and need longer and longer walks. Whereas if we combine walking or other exercises such as play with mental stimulation, we're more likely to wear a dog out to keep them tired. And as the old adage goes, a tired dog is a happy dog. Other ideas for enrichment: food dispensing toys. Okay, so there's a lot of different food dispensing toys available on the market. You've got Kongs, which a lot of people are familiar with. They're the red rubber, funny looking ball that people put peanut butter in. Peanut butter is sometimes not enough. Some dogs aren't interested in peanut butter. Personally, at our house with our dogs, they don't get fed out of a bowl ever. They have water in a bowl, and that's about it. Everything else comes out of some kind of food dispensing toy or some other way for them to interact with their food that gets their mind working. When you like us, and we have a Staffy Kelpie cross who could, for all intensive purposes, become insanity on legs if he felt the need. He is entertained a lot through dispensing what would normally take him 2 seconds to eat out of a bowl by separating that into meals and feeding it out of food dispensing devices. So whether it be a food ball, it could be a Kong. You've got a few different types of food balls, so like everlasting treat balls, which may have caps and things along those lines that make it a bit more difficult to get out of. There's an excellent range of toys by a woman called Nina Otterson, who were designed to create a dog to think and actually to increase the complexity of the task that's involved to get the food out. There's also things like Kong Wobblers, which are new, so obviously made by the same company who make the small Kong toy, and they are like a treat ball on steroids. Okay, so it's not just a matter of being able to push the ball around. Some dogs will get to a point with a treat ball where they can just push it back and forth so that they can get the treat out. So they're quite smart. It just adds an extra dimension. It's weighted in the base, so the dog has to really work a bit harder at getting the food out. These are great types of toys to use. Then you can think out of the box a bit. It's not all about purchasing toys to be able to utilise with your dog. You can also just start to utilise things that you already get at home. So consider it like an ultimate recycling program. So if you've got a milk container or a butter container or ice cream container or any container that you get in that's has had food in it, as long as that food is safe for the dog to have, then it can go out via a dog. Okay, so you give them a chance to tear into it, lick it out, and then you can put it away in the bin later. This way, your dog gets to be a bit more entertained than he would during his normal day-to-day run of activities. You can also go to the extent of freezing things in there. So if you have some ice cream containers, you could put some chicken stock in there, for example, or you could try different flavors stock. You may be able to just put some of his kibble or dried dog food into the water as well. Freeze it, and then you're going to have a dog that has to actually work a bit harder to get his food. Frozen things like frozen Kongs and frozen stock are an excellent way also of helping puppies through their teething period, which is going to happen around the 5-month of age mark. You can also think about just wetting and freezing rope toys, for example, so they have something to gnaw on at that stage as well. Treasure hunts, they're great. So all you need to do is grab a portion of your dog's daily food requirements and spread it through some garden beds in the backyard. Again, hitting into that scavenger nature of your dog. There's also playtime. Okay, so exercise should not just equal a walk. Exercise should equal anything that gets your dog moving. The great thing about a walk is obviously that you get to do it together. But often, if you think about games like tug, for example, that tug game is a representation of taking down prey. And if you just go for a walk, that's only the beginning of a hunt. So no dog in the wild would just go for a walk without a purpose of getting food. So what we do is we can go for a walk, come home, play a game of tug. So if you wanted to walk your dog for an hour, maybe perhaps only walk them for 20 minutes and then come home and do 20 minutes worth of tug. Then they're actually going to be worn out. Digging pits. So if you do have a dog that's prone to digging, so say you've got a terrier, digging pits are an excellent way to get your dog to focus in one area of digging instead of digging up your whole garden. You can put treats in there, you can put toys in there, you can put whatever you need to encourage the dog to go into that spot. And then you can also control that resource. So a lot of people use those big blue clamshells. You can cover those up and only give your dog access to digging when you're there to encourage the behaviour um, and uh, and have a bit of fun with it. Going on a car ride, for example, is very stimulating to dogs and also gives them something to think about. Wading pools are another way. So, if you're like me, I have a Cocker Spaniel. He loves the water, so wading pools are an excellent way of him to get another form of exercise that's actually quite enriching for him to do. You can put some treats in a box. So, another way to think outside the norm is to put the treats in a box or a cardboard roll. You can put them in an egg carton and then seal it up and then let your dog just have some destructive fun with that. You can pull it apart. It's not the end of the world. It's just garbage anyway, so you may as well recycle it out through your dog. Start to use your imagination. Get to know your dog. Get to know what motivates them, what they like, what they don't like, and then use what they like as a reinforcer and also to give them some mental stimulation. Steve Irwin says you can keep a tiger in a shoebox as long as you give them something to think about. And that's our job, to give our dog something to think about. It's not about every dog living on a farm or an acreage and running around and not having any enrichment. You can have a large property and have nothing to do as a dog. You need something to do, and it's our job to give it to them.